Okay, so I've got a cup of coffee and it's time to finally start filling in our faces. I mean, I keep saying that it's time to start doing things, but we also just need to put this edge back in again. So let's run this for now. And here we've got our clipping turned on. So we are going to have some problem solving to do with this, because that's not technically how the inside of the bonnet looks. It would be more of a step down, and then this is like some plastic trim. So let's, should we just solve this now? Maybe we should just solve this now. So we're going to select, push 2 to select your edges rather than your vertices. 1 for vertices, 2 for the edges. So we're just going to select these edges, and then we're going to hit Shift and D and pull it down, something like that. And I'm going to connect this to, I'm going to connect this to this, no, I'm going to connect this to this edge with the F key. And I think I could probably, I was going to remove that, but I think we need it just so everything matches up. And then we will just join these like this, and then, so this is where our like windscreen wipers and things are going to go. Okay, I'm just going to save this one more time. I like to save a lot. I don't trust Blender. I'm old school. I'm from the days when stuff crashed all the time. So how do we fill in these faces? We kind of started to cover it earlier in the lesson, but essentially we're going to find 4 vertices and we're going to match them up and hit the F key. And we'll turn off X-ray so we can see the face. And then once you have selected 4, if Blender has a clear path to continue, you can select the last 2 and then just keep hitting the F key. And then it gets confused here because we've got multiple directions it could go in, so we have to repeat the process, select those 4, and we need to do it here as well. So that's a start. Let's connect up these. Oh. And we're not going to worry about this yet. Let's connect these up too. So we can do the same trick. And we're going to go to, yeah, we could continue to here actually. And let's connect these up. And so now we're going to start looking through and seeing where we can easily connect up 4 without having to make any extra geometry. And this is an obvious culprit, so I'll do this one. And connect here, and then we should just be able to work our way to the back. So it's like solving a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle. We're just looking for like easy faces that we can fill in. We can do the same thing here. But now you notice we've got an extra edge here. Now, we have a decision because we don't really need that edge at the moment, but we might do in the future. So for now, let's just dissolve it. So we can select both of these vertices and choose dissolve vertices, and it will keep those edges and just get rid of the middle section, and that gives us another face like that. Perfect. And I think, you see, I'm already starting to notice things that maybe we need to do a little bit differently. And that is that we've got like a little step here, so it doesn't just run through like I've made it. So let's carry on and put this in. And we could connect these 4 like this for now. Remember also that nothing is permanent, like we're going to rework out some bits as we go. And then I'm going to put a loop cut, Control and R, and it should run all the way through because we've got quads. And I'm going to pull it to about here, and then using the G key, you're going to slide it back. So there we go, we've got more of that edge. Okay, so now we could also connect up these 4. And we can just keep going, and then things, yeah, things turn out nicely there, perfect. So you see how quickly we can fill in like a big chunk of the car because we've done all of the difficult work already. I genuinely love this part. It's very satisfying to see all the hard work we did come together. And yeah, we've got another quad there. So why am I interested in quads? Because we're doing a low poly model and it doesn't really matter. Well, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, I think aesthetically I still think it looks better. It gives you these like nicely faceted squared edges. It doesn't give you so many weird jagged polygons. But also, we're going to do some smoothing later on, and you could at this point apply a subdivision modifier, and we're going to notice there's some issues here which we're going to fix, but you can see that everything smooths nicely. So why have we got this little pinching thing here? Let's just turn this off for a second. If we go to face orientation, you can see that the bulk of these are red and some of it is grey, and that's because we've got normals flipped. So it's going to happen quite a lot. So we're going to tab in, hit A, select everything, then hit Alt and N and choose recalculate outside. And you'll know it's right because it will go back to the default grey and the back facing would be red. So I actually leave on my face orientation as I'm working so I can see all these mistakes coming through. And if we apply our subdivision surface again, and bump that up to 2, you can see although we haven't defined any edges, it's nice and smooth, everything flows properly. So if you did decide that you wanted to make a high poly model, you can still use these techniques, and it's just good practice to try and work in quads wherever you can. So we're going to go back to shade flat. Anyway, we got distracted. So this area at the moment we don't want to tackle. It's going to be complicated because it's not as simple as just filling in this face. It's got a curve to that wing. So we're going to work that out as we go. So let's do this part of the bumper because this is straightforward. And we can just keep selecting. So annoyingly it gets stuck every time you have one coming off the edge and you have to go back to selecting 4. So no problems there. I mean, we have got ourselves a quad here I think, so we can join like that, and we do have a quad here so we can join like that. And then this face, so what I like to look for at this point as well is like any kind of weird, not so much stretching, but like I don't like the way that this angle isn't really following the curve, whereas something like that feels more natural. So we're just going to go to the top view and just kind of move some bits around so that, do you see what I mean? So it's kind of, that is the way, if you were plotting the curve neatly, that's the way that the angle would be facing out, rather than having ones where it's like that and then another one at a different angle. I'm just going to undo this because I've made a little bit of a mess and I can do a better job. So we'll make sure we've got these selected together and we're just going to pull this round. If we turn on X-ray mode, we're definitely picking up both vertices. We just want to kind of get more of that flow back. And then we're going to have the same problem here. This one wants to come over. So always tweaking and just kind of, because it matters for the way that the light catches things. Especially on low poly models actually, it's kind of important that you have a nice flow to your edges. Okay. So that's looking a little bit better. Let's fill in the other side now, we might as well. So same deal. And it's getting very confused here, so let's fill in that face. All of our normals are facing the right way. I think I'm going to find a better solution to this. And I think that solution might just be to select this one, and then merge it last. It's maybe not as accurate, but I think it's cleaner and neater. So, okay, front bumper filled. Well, front top of the bumper. Let's fill in this face, even though we're going to cut it out later on. So both of those filled. And then we have a bit of an issue here in that we can't just fill across these faces because there's a loop cut at each end. But what we can use is something called the grid fill tool, which is a really useful tool. So we need to check that we have the same number of vertices on every side. So we have 1, 2 on that side, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need an extra vertice in this. So let's go to the top view, and we can see that the gap missing is there. So let's just slide this one down a bit, double tap the G, create another vertice there and slide it up. So it should carry on without messing up our line. And then we're going to select the top left corner and then Control Shift our way around. And then make sure, using the Shift key, that we finish on one of these top corners. It just seems to make the grid fill work better. Then we're going to hit the F3 key and type in grid fill. And sometimes you get some errors like this. So let's try and work out why we're getting these errors. We're going to select everything, hit M, merge by distance. I haven't got anything overlapping. Okay. So let's try selecting everything again. It can be a really fiddly tool, grid fill. Sometimes it works, sometimes it decides not to. Let's try making this the last corner selected. And grid fill, still not working. Connecting edge loop overlaps. Okay, so I've had this problem with it before, and the workaround for it, it's annoying that it's done it on the first part of the vehicle that we need it for, but like I said, it's best to kind of tackle the mistakes as they come up. So make sure you're selecting just this part of the bumper, of the bonnet, sorry, and then we're going to hit Shift and D to duplicate it, and right click to leave it in its place, and I'm going to hit P, separate selection. And now we should have a second part, a separate part of the bonnet. So let's just turn off the main car. And now if we select everything and hit F3 again, choose grid fill, it should fill. And you can see it's kind of kept the curve, it's added the extra line through. It has flipped all the faces, so we're going to flip. So I'll just do that again because I skipped through it. Alt and N and flip. And then if we bring back our car, now we need to attach this back to our original model. So we're going to select new bonnet first, then the original car, hit Control and J, and then go into tab mode, make sure we're in vertex, select everything, and then choose M and merge by distance, and it's going to join 14 vertices, so it's welded it back on. Now, if we go to the top view, I just want to kind of smooth some of these lines a little bit so they flow more with the natural curve. So I'm just pulling that one down. I'm just going to use GG to slide this into more of a curve shape. So it just feels kind of softer, less angular. Okay, so that's our bonnet in. And yeah, perfect. Let's fill in what we can here. So we're going to do these four and these four, and we can fill this for now. So this is a triangle, which ideally we would avoid, but there is a way around it which might solve some problems in the future. And we're going to look at how we're going to tackle this as well, because we've got a triangle. We basically want to try and bring this edge round to here. So let's just link this up. So select both those vertices and hit the F key. And then we're going to go to the top view, and let's put in a couple more vertices and bring this round. And there's not really any reason that's sitting so high up, I don't think. So let's bring this down and check what's going on in our side view. So, okay, so that definitely does need to be back there. I'm just going to undo this step. And maybe we want to pull all of this back a little bit. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out how we're solving this area here. Let's fill in these faces to start with and see how we look. So I don't love this right now. Let's connect these up like this because we know that that's correct. And then let's put in another vertex here with a loop cut and one here. I'm just going to weld this to the last one. So select this one, then this one, M to merge, merge it last. Same here. And then we're just going to work out what's the best way to do this. So I think we select this face and then hit X to delete faces. And then we're going to connect these back up again. I'm going to make a face here for now. And then let's put another loop in here, so we're turning this into a quad. And then we can make a triangle there, and we're just going to select this edge, go into our side view, and we can pull this forward. And we're just going to tweak to see if there's any like obvious bits of stretch geometry that we don't like. I think we're pretty good, and we could look at making another edge here if we really wanted to like capture this curve better. Okay, so let's fill in this face here, and we're just going to slide that so it's not so stretched. And then we're going to need another set of loop cuts in here. So I'll just put a loop cut there. And connect the faces like this. And do we need something here at the moment? I don't think we do. So let's dissolve this edge. You're going to find that we are adding in and removing faces quite a lot as we go to try and work out what's the best way to tackle various things, and then we can connect up like this. And let's just go to our front view and see how our geometry is looking. If we need to bring anything back into position. Really want to capture that bonnet bump. We're going to sharpen up all these edges so it will be more pronounced in a bit. But great. So let's just try and finish off this edge. So after I've deleted that edge, we do need that back in. So we'll just make a new loop cut here. And let's finish off with this. So that's our bonnet done, and we've got some bumps here, so let's try and work out what's going on there. That's because this is way off. And again, just try and smooth these curves a little bit so you've got more of a flow to things. I really don't love this front edge at the moment, but we will work out how we're going to solve that. I've got some ideas. But we might find that as we need more geometry for things, problems will solve themselves. That's quite often the way. Okay. Let's try and get this front wing filled in. This is where things are going to start to get complicated. So, let's take this and connect like this, and you can see that it's obviously way too far away. So let's Alt Shift click on that edge. Do I need to Alt Shift? It's just Alt click on that edge, sorry. And then we're going to double tap G and slide it. So we've got something more like this. And then let's put another edge in and do the same trick. And we're just going to check overhead if everything's lining up right. Nice. And now, if we go to the front view, you can see we've got this really sharp edge, and that is not how the wing of this car goes. It's got a curve to it. So let's put in one loop cut for now, and just try and bring more of this shape in. So that seems kind of more in keeping with both what a car looks like and what I know this car looks like. So we've got that, and let's look at how we could anchor this to. We know that we need to get to these points, so let's join up these two, and we'll connect like this. And this is where we're always going to be trying to find like smooth curves that make sense. So just for now, we're going to dissolve this vertice, and we're going to try and work with the ones that we've got, because things are going to get very complicated otherwise, and we can always add them back in as we've got more defined geometry. So we're going to put a loop cut in there, and we'll make a face there. And let's have a look from the front view how things are looking. So I can see that vertex is kind of pushing in, but the rest of that shape looks pretty good. And we'll also check from the top and just see if this flow makes sense, or if it looks like it's dented, or we're looking pretty good there. So where can we go now? Now we could keep adding in loop cuts, and we're going to need one to bring this down. So let's make a quad here, and that should give us another quad there. And again, we're just going to go really slowly and check to see if we're making any weird bumpy geometry, which we kind of are. So we need to just smooth out any edges where we can. And then let's connect up this like this. And what we could also do is, instead of terminating everything up, which is what we've been doing, we could start terminating across. So we'll make this edge, and then we could run a loop cut in here, and that gives us a quad, and that gives us a quad. So let's have a look at, turn on X-ray mode and just see what we can do just using the GG tool to slide along these faces. And we can kind of bring in a bit more of that curve back again. And we can bring that up a bit. Just trying to neaten up our geometry where we can. And then we're just going to check to see if we've got any weird little lumps and bumps. Everything's kind of looking pretty good at the moment. This could maybe tighten up a little bit this way. Okay. I'd also like to think about how this flow works. So you're just trying to avoid any really sharp 90-degree turns. If you can do anything to just slide things along to keep things smooth. And again, we're getting shading, like you can see these faces in quite a pronounced way, but later on we're going to use some normal weighting and edge smoothing and stuff, and it won't be so apparent. Okay. Apologies for anyone who has, what's it called, mesophonia, where you can't stand the sound of food and drink. I probably shouldn't have had a swig of coffee then. So I just connected these two edges up, and I'm going to put a loop cut, and we're going to carry on the same sort of idea. Now we already know, let's slide this down. We already know that if I put a loop cut in here, that's going to give us another quad there without it running across the bonnet, so we get a freebie basically. So let's connect up these four and put our loop cut in again, and I think this edge is going to terminate in this corner. Quite often front wings kind of come to a point at the front. So let's fill in this quad. And there's some bits that I don't love at the moment, like I can see there's some twisting going on, so we will address that, but let's try and get some more faces filled in first. And we're just going to check in some other views. So at the moment this part is kind of, we've got just some little bumps here and there. Just want to try and make the space in between these more even. Just slide that down so it's a less pronounced change. Okay, so what do we do here? Because we have an extra vertices here, we have this extra edge. So let's dissolve that vertice for now and make another edge loop here. And then we should be left with a neat termination like this. So this here looks off to me. Let's just Control Shift this line and Shift H. Sometimes it's just easier to see where your bumps are by soloing that line. And we might need to do this for all of them. But yeah, that's given us a much better line. And let's do the same thing on this one. No, it's not too bad. It's following our blueprints pretty well. And we're just going to try and soften that edge slightly. Okay, so we're making some good progress here. We're definitely going to do some reshaping at the front later on, but let's carry on filling in our car where we can. So, nice big win here, and if we just hit Alt-N now, we can flip it. And that should set us on the right path for the next ones, so that one's okay. Here, we need to think about where this flows. It could either flow this way or this way. Let's flow across this way. So let's do this one before we go any further. And in fact, let's put another loop cut in here. Slide it down, and then slide this one down to here. And if we go up to the top here and choose auto merge vertices and slide again and then slide back down again, it will snap over, and now we've only got the one vertice. And then if we select all four of these and hit F twice, it will delete the odd face that we had before and make a new one. And let's just view from the top, see how we're looking. Maybe slide this something like that should work. Okay, and then let's just connect these two up and look at how we're going to carry on that curve. So I want something like this. And we just need to see if there's anything looking weird in the other views. So we're going to select these and hit Shift and H. And indeed, there are some things looking weird. So we're going to pull this up and this up. And I think we're going to need another couple of points to make this work. So we want to make sure we're following the obvious curve of the geometry. We're basically making an edge loop where we would put one before we even get that far. So to cover this one off, we'll make another vertice point in here, and we can use that to give us a little bit more of a curve here if we want, and then we'll just carry on filling through. And so we should now, let's count our vertices. We've got an extra one here. So what have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we could just dissolve this one for now. And we should be able to do the grid fill. Let's see if it works this time. So Control Shift our way around. Make sure we're selecting everything. Let's reselect this one. Choose grid fill. Still not wanting to play ball. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to hit Shift and D, escape, and then hit P to separate it out. And then if we tab back in to edit, select all with the A key, and then choose grid fill from the F3 menu. And it's still not wanting to work. Why is that? Just check we've not got any duplicate vertices. No. Let's try grid fill again. Select two edge loops or a single closed edge loop from which. It's determined to not work for me today. Okay, I'm going to delete that object. And this is a good way to look at how we would do it without using grid fill, I guess. So we're going to select these four and make a face. And then these four and make a face. And we're just going to slide these over to the straighter edges. It's because we've got many extra vertices, so that was my fault. So we can't fill in these until we add another edge loop in here. And then we're going to bring this up. best we can. And you can see that this is already sort of stretching a bit, so we're just going to bring these more into line, more into where we would expect. And then we can make a face here, and a face there. Okay, time to save a new version. So I'm up to version 8. Okay, let's see where else we can easily fill in. Let's do this back section here. So it doesn't really matter if you're jumping around all over the place. Alt-N to flip. Because you're going to fill in all the faces eventually, and it's better to find some easy ones to begin with and then tackle problems as they come up. So let's bump this slightly up to carry on the curve, and then we're going to put this edge loop in, and we'll bring it up like this. Now this honestly might make this section harder to do, but we can always delete that edge loop later on. Because it does seem right that this would have some kind of curve in it. So we should be able to do this edge as well. And then we've got a quad there, which we don't really want. So we could put another vertex in there. Sorry, we've got a triangle there, which we don't want. So we could put another vertex in there to better capture that curve. And then make our quad from those. Okay, so now let's connect these faces, and now I've got a flip normal there. Let's connect these up like this. So I'm going to select all 3 of those and flip. And is there anything else obvious that we need to work out how we're going to terminate these edges? So we're going to definitely need to continue this line somewhere. Let's have a look at our reference. Like this line carries on towards the back of the car, so let's assume it's going to go here. And then just pull these back slightly. Yeah, it seems right. So let's put in our X vertices and slide along, and then now we can connect these 4 up. I think it's probably time to try and fill in this door panel. We've also got these which we can do, so let's fill in this. Things get a little bit crunchy down here. Let's see what we end up with. Let's do that for now. Still technically all quads. And if you want to get an impression of how this would look smooth, it's always nice to just check in. And we've got some bumps, but we've got no pinching. We've got nice clean quads. We're in pretty good shape so far. Nice. Okay, so let's for now just connect these 4 up. And then we can slide this one down. And let's put a vertex in here and connect these 4 up. And we can also connect these 4. Okay, this is pretty weird at the moment, and I definitely don't want faces quite so long on their own, but it's a start. So let's put a loop cut in here and then connect these faces up. And then I don't know what this is doing yet. It's not really helping us out here, so let's get rid of this for now. And then if we make another loop cut here, we can quad that off. And it doesn't really hurt us adding in extra geometry because there's no curve there, so we don't need to worry about smoothing out a curve. And we're going to subdivide that. So just use our loop cut tool and make another face in here. It looks like some things are looking a little bit squishy, so we're going to finish filling in these faces and then we'll sort that out. Because of how this terminates here, we need another loop cut in there, something like this. Oh, and then fill in that final face. So let's just select all of these and Shift H, and let's see if there's any kind of obvious reason why that looks a bit off. Things are pretty stretched here, so let's try bringing these down and straighten them out. I think that should fix a lot of our problems. And we can do the same trick. We can select these edges and hit Shift and H to solo them and just see if they've got any obvious lumps, but no, that one's good. Let's do the same on this one. Shift and H. That's pretty good. We could move this one back a little bit. So what I don't want is, I want to smooth this angle. More like that, and then let's just put in a couple of loop cuts as well so that our geometry is more consistent. And I know when we look at it at the moment it looks a bit of a mess, like we've got a lot of faces that don't really feel like that nice low poly style, but we're going to sharpen edges later on, so some of these are going to seem smooth and some of them are going to have creases in, and it's just going to bring that like stylized, simplified look that I showed you at the start. It's going to look good, trust me. I hope. Let's start filling in some of the back sections. So do these. And we're going to carry on. And again, if anything seems like it's kind of facing the wrong way, it doesn't feel like a natural fit, like this curve here, we'll just see if there's anything we can do to kind of bring that around more like that. We'll do the same on this one. Okay, so we've got this expanse here to fill in. We could fill in some more of this back section here first. A pretty stretched quad. I think there's a better way of doing this, so let's undo that one. Let's fill in these faces because they look nice and straight. Let's put another loop cut in here and bring that edge in. Let's just slide these to make things a bit softer. Slide this one back. And we might merge some parts later on to make that bumper more collapsed in. And then let's see what we can do to add in this geometry. So if we do this, I want to terminate one like this. And then what happens if we add in an extra one here, terminate like this. That should give us quads without too much stretching. You get like a little bit there where it curves, but I think that looks good. What we can do, because we've added in this extra set of edges, it steps our curve more than I'd want. So if we select from one end to the other, and then right click and choose Loop Tools, Relax, and do the same across, it smooths our curve back out again. And you can see that it kind of can mess about some of our edges, so we need to use it sparingly, but we can just slide these back into place and it gives us back our curve. And we can also space these better, so we should have done space first really. And we'll just relax these again. And let's space this as well. So we've got an even distribution and nicer looking faces. So we could, I guess, it depends on how we feel about this first. Let's see where we get to with the other parts of the bumper, and we can fill that in later on. So we're going to leave our lights as they are at the moment. Let's connect this face to here and try and work out where this goes. So this is going to continue this line. So we can put in a few loop cuts. Do something so it's more pronounced here. It's kind of keeping with the flow of the car. Let's go to our side view and check that fits in okay. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to slide this along. I want this one here and this one here, and then let's just have a look at our curve again. So let's solo it and try and work out if where this should go to continue the flow nicely. That sort of looks right. This needs to come over a little bit more. Just tweak it all the time. And then we can join up these faces. Slide this over. And then let's put in a loop cut here. And then we can slide this one and put in a loop cut here. And then if we select from this one to this one, loop tools, so right click loop tools, and choose space, and then right click loop tools and relax, and it'll carry on that curve, and we can just fill in. And we'll just slide to straighten where we can. So you can see we fill in nicely in that big back section of the bumper and then the boot even, and then let's just see how this looks if we do something like this. Yeah, not too bad that. This is maybe a little bit out, so we'll just move it on the Y. Likewise with this. Have we made too much of a bump now? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So we're going to have to add in some extra edges to fill this part in. So I guess we might as well do that now. And we can slide down. Whoop. And then let's also just deal with this like creased in section. So we're just going to add in extra vertices where we need them and slide where we don't. And then let's just see what happens if we relax this. I think that's going to be too great a curve to neatly relax. Yeah, also accidentally selected everything. So let's just select from here to here and relax. And then we can just fill in these faces too. And just where anything looks a bit kind of strained, you can smooth over, keep that flow going. Cool. Definitely getting somewhere now. Got the bulk of the shape in. Still not 100% on this, so let's just Control Shift down to there, solo it just so I'm not getting confused working on anything else. Maybe if I just ease the shape a little bit. You can definitely get obsessed with trying to get everything looking perfect. Okay, time to save again. Okay, let's see what we can fill in on the roof now. It would be really great if grid fill worked just once so I could demonstrate it. So let's try again. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're good front and back. And we've got one here, so we need 2 more vertices adding into this section. And let's just make sure you double tap in G. Let's get them kind of roughly in place. And then we'll select all of those. So select one corner and then Control Shift to select the other. F3 grid fill. Connecting edge overloop lap. I don't know what its problem is. There we go. So for some reason I just had to select a different vertex. So let's just try this again to show you. So I'll start from here, Control Shift. So finishing on that vertex there, F3 grid fill, and it's done what it's supposed to. It's filled in all of the faces again. So that saved us a bunch of time doing the roof. And we're just constantly looking for any like crunchy geometry. This doesn't look great. This looks like it tapers away and then back in again. There we go. The best way to describe it is you're trying to relax any edges that look kind of tense and strained. Because even though it's a square car, it's still got kind of curves and a flow to it. And everywhere where something looks jagged or out of whack, we need to fix it. So that's looking much better. Okay, what can we fill in next? So to fill in this bit, we need an extra. We've got a quad there, and we would have a quad there, but we've got this extra loop. So we can either decide that we don't need this bit, which might be the right call, or we could put an extra edge loop in here. So if we want that, it's a pretty gentle shape. I think we can kind of get away with it. So we've also got, oh, that's the inner window frame, so that's fine. So we can now, in theory, grid fill this. So we don't want that selected. We want everything else selected, and then grid fill's done its work. Nice. So the question is, in the words of Guns N' Roses, where do we go now? And I think we go this one to this one to get a fairly straight edge. And then we want to connect down here to create this panel. And then we'll kind of deal with all this freeform stuff. So, connected that edge like this. And then Control R to put another loop cut in. Let's join this one and this one. And then we can put in, so this will connect to here, this will connect to here, and this will carry on across. So let us do, how is best to do this? Let's just put in 2 loop cuts here and slide them. And then we can fill in here. Just tightening up anything that looks wrong. Got a few little wobbles to take out, but we will deal with that later. There's definitely going to be some polishing stages to this, but okay, so now we can make a quad here, and then if we put another edge loop in, we can make a quad here, and if we put another edge loop in here and just slide, we can make a quad here. Nice. And this is where things get complicated because we've got a lot of edges here and we don't have a lot going on here, so we're going to have to do some real improvising. So let's get these parts of the arch connected up at least. So we're going to make 3 loop cuts, slide them roughly into where we want it to be, and we can kind of be stretching away from the wheel a little bit. We'll make a face like that, and then this gives us a quad, so that's that problem solved. And let's connect up that. This is where it gets into prime jigsaw puzzle. It's like every time you solve off an area, it gets closer and closer to being finished. And I think this is going to give me some stuff I don't love. So I don't really want to terminate that edge like that, because you can see what happens. It's suddenly pulling away in a way it wouldn't be. It would be carrying on along this edge. So I think we're just going to have to deal with having some more edges there. So I'm going to use the knife tool, K, and I'm just going to cut like this, and then dissolve this edge. And we've now got an extra loop cut. Now we could be sensible and use that to kind of fill in this area. So we'll think about that. So we're going to put a loop cut in there, and then rather than using F to connect these up, we're going to use J, so it then cuts a line across the face. If you use F, it will look like it's done the same thing, but it will overlay a face on top of it, which you an edge on top of it, which you absolutely do not want. So you can see now this has got like a better flow to it for the most part. We're kind of dipping in and out though, so we need to just straighten all of these out. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in this section, and then we're going to bring in the detail of here, because I think it might solve a bunch of problems and we should do these things properly. So let's get this back section filled in, and then we'll work out what we're going to do from there. So let's fill in this face like this. This face, and then that gives us one quad here, and I know we're going to get left with a triangle, but we will solve that by literally just going to slide everything along, select the 2 faces together, right click and choose subdivide, and then we're going to use J to connect those 2 up, select these 4 and hit F twice to make a face again. And then we're going to run a loop cut into here to finish this off. And things are pretty ugly at the moment, so let's just smooth out some of this flow a little bit. Smooth out spacing. I normally wouldn't like how dense this is at the back, but I think we're going to use this to get our edges. This is also not in the right position yet, so we've got some fixing to do, but right now I think we're at a point where we've only got the front bumper to do and the back bumper and then this detail here. So let's save and then get into that section.